Millionaire enters orphanage. A girl shouts "Daddy" in front of everyone, surprising a black woman. Richard Sterling, Manhattan royalty, strutted into Sunshine Orphanage like he owned the place. Designer suit, slicked back hair, the whole 9 yards. He looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. See, his buddy Sarah Jenkins, bless her bleeding heart, had guilt-tripped him into this perspective check. Richard, Mr. Cold-as-Ice corporate raider, needing perspective? Yeah, right, the place was a dump. Peeling paint, jungle of a garden. A million miles from his penthouse view of Central Park. Kids were running wild inside, screaming, laughing. A total madhouse. This Eleanor Johnson woman, all smiles and wrinkles, greeted him like he was Santa Claus. Then it happened. Bam! Out of nowhere, this little girl, pigtails, flying, latches onto his leg. "Danny!" she yells, loud enough for the whole freaking world to hear. The room went dead silent. Mrs. Johnson's smile froze. A young black woman, probably a caregiver, dropped her jaw. Richard just stood there, stunned. This kid, calling him daddy? Her name was Lily, and she was looking up at him with these huge, trusting eyes. Eyes that saw her dad? Richard Sterling didn't do kids. He did hostile takeovers and power lunches. He definitely didn't do this. "Daddy, can we go get ice cream now?" Lily tugged on his hand, her voice full of hope. Richard felt his stomach drop. He glanced at Mrs. Johnson, then at the caregiver, who was still staring like she'd seen a ghost. This was bad, real bad. But then he looked back at Lily, that tiny face, those trusting eyes. Something shifted inside him, a weird, unfamiliar feeling. Warmth? Could it be? "Maybe later, sweetheart," he managed, his voice cracking a little. Right now, Daddy needs to talk to these nice ladies. But what was he going to say? How was he going to explain this? And more importantly, what was he going to do about the pull he felt towards this little girl, who thought he was her father? This was a whole new level of complicated. Ei, antes de continuarmos com essa história incrível, preciso te fazer um alerta importante. Muitos inscritos têm relatado que o YouTube removeu suas inscrições sem aviso. Dá só uma conferida rápida no botão vermelho aí embaixo para garantir que você ainda está inscrito no canal. Não quero que você perca nenhum conteúdo exclusivo que vem por aí. E já que você está aí, deixa aquele like poderoso que me ajuda muito com o algoritmo. Ah, e me conta nos comentários, de qual cidade você está assistindo? Adoro conhecer cada pessoa incrível que faz parte dessa comunidade. Sua participação faz toda a diferença. Vamos interagir. "Maybe later, sweetheart," he managed, his voice cracking a little. Right now, Daddy needs to talk to these nice ladies. But what was he going to say? How was he going to explain this? And more importantly, what was he going to do about the pull he felt towards this little girl who thought he was her father? This was a whole new level of complicated. He cleared his throat, trying to regain some of that sterling confidence. "Right," he said, turning to Mrs. Johnson. "There seems to be a misunderstanding." Before he could elaborate, the young black woman, the caregiver, stepped forward. Her face was a mask of disbelief. "Richard?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Richard Sterling? Is that really you?" He squinted at her, trying to place the face. She looked familiar, but "Do I know you?" he asked, genuinely confused. Her eyes welled up. "Don't you recognize me, Richard? It's me. It's Aisha." Aisha. The name flickered in his memory. Aisha. From college? The shy, brilliant Aisha who'd vanished after graduation. The one. Oh, God. "Aisha Carter?" he stammered, the color draining from his face. But it's been years." Aisha nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Years you chose to forget, Richard. Years I spent raising our daughter." Lily looked up at him, her brow furrowed. "Mommy, Aisha?" she asked, confused. "But you said Daddy was a hero." The room was silent again, heavier this time. Richard's world tilted. He had a daughter, and he'd abandoned her mother, leaving her to raise their child alone. The shame washed over him in a suffocating wave. I didn't know," he choked out, his voice barely audible. "Didn't know?" Aisha spat, her voice rising. "You left, Richard. You took the money your daddy gave you and ran to Manhattan, leaving me with nothing. No phone call, no letter, nothing." Suddenly, a siren wailed outside, growing louder, closer. Everyone jumped. Then, tires screeched to a halt, right in front of the orphanage. 2 police officers burst through the door, guns drawn. "Richard Sterling," one of them barked, "you're under arrest for embezzlement and fraud." The world spun. Richard Sterling, Manhattan royalty, arrested? In an orphanage? In front of his long-lost daughter and the woman he'd abandoned? He stared at the officers, then back at Aisha, then at Lily. This wasn't just complicated anymore. This was a freaking nightmare. As they cuffed him, Lily started to cry. "Daddy, don't take my daddy." Richard looked at Aisha, pleading. "Aisha, please," he whispered. "Tell them it's a mistake." But Aisha just stared back, her face a mixture of anger and triumph. There was something cold in her eyes, something he'd never seen before. Then she spoke, her voice clear and sharp. "Take him away," she said to the officers. "He's got what he deserves." And then, just as the police were dragging him out, he heard Lily scream one last time, "Mommy, why are you doing this to Daddy?" Aisha knelt down, hugging Lily tightly. "It's okay, sweetheart," she whispered. "Mommy's got you now, and we're going to be just fine. We're going to be rich." The door slammed shut, leaving Richard Sterling, millionaire corporate raider turned accused criminal, staring out at the rain-soaked street. He'd been played, and somehow Aisha, the shy girl he'd left behind, was behind it all. But how? And why? The doors slammed shut, leaving Richard Sterling, millionaire corporate raider turned accused criminal, staring out at the rain-soaked street. He'd been played, and somehow Aisha, the shy girl he'd left behind, was behind it all. But how? And why? The squad car reeked of stale coffee and regret. Richard barely registered the ride downtown. His mind was a whirlwind. Aisha? That Aisha? Orchestrating his downfall? It was insane. He ran a hand through his hair, slicked back just hours ago, now a tangled mess. He had to figure this out. They booked him, fingerprinted him, stripped him of his designer suit, and gave him an orange jumpsuit that itched like crazy. He was led to a holding cell, cold and damp, filled with faces that stared at him with a mixture of curiosity and contempt. He'd never felt so alone. Hours crawled by. Finally, a lawyer showed up, some young hotshot from a firm he'd never heard of. "Richard Sterling?" she asked, her voice sharp. "I'm Brenda Davies. Let's talk." Brenda was all business. She laid out the charges: embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy. The evidence was circumstantial, but damning. A paper trail leading back to shell corporations, offshore accounts, all things he thought were buried deep. Aisha must have had help, serious help. "Who else is involved in this?" he demanded, his voice hoarse. Brenda shrugged. "That's what we need to find out. But right now, your priority is bail. It's been denied." Denied? He was Richard Sterling. He had more money than God. "Why?" "Because," Brenda said, her face grim, "Aisha Carter testified against you. She presented evidence. Evidence of a pattern of financial crimes going back years. And she testified that you threatened her if she ever came forward." That was a lie. He'd never threatened Aisha. But who would believe him now? "There's more," Brenda continued, her voice low. "She also presented medical records showing Lily has a rare genetic disorder, one that could only come from you." He stared at her, speechless. Genetic disorder? Lily? He'd never heard of anything like that. Brenda sighed. "The prosecution is arguing that you abandoned Aisha and Lily because you knew about the disorder and didn't want to deal with it. It makes you look unsympathetic." Unsympathetic? He was being framed. He opened his mouth to protest, but before he could speak, a guard appeared at the cell door. "Sterling, you've got a visitor." Visitor? Who in their right mind would visit him in this hellhole? He followed the guard, his heart pounding. Maybe it was Sarah Jenkins, come to see how her perspective check was going. He was led to a small visiting room, and there, sitting behind the glass, was Lily. His heart leaped. He picked up the phone, his voice trembling. "Lily, what are you doing here?" Her little face was pale and tear-stained. "Daddy," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Mommy says you're a bad man." "No, sweetheart," he said, his voice cracking. "That's not true. Mommy's mistaken." Lily shook her head. "She showed me pictures of money, lots of money, and she said you stole it." Richard felt a wave of despair wash over him. Aisha was poisoning Lily against him. He had to stop her. "Lily, listen to me. I didn't steal anything. Mommy she's angry, but it's going to be okay. I promise." Suddenly, Lily's eyes widened. She stared at something behind him, her mouth agape. He turned around, and there, standing behind the guard, was Aisha. But it wasn't the Aisha he remembered. Not the shy, brilliant girl from college. This Aisha was cold, calculating, and triumphant. She picked up the phone on her side of the glass. "Hello, Richard," she said, her voice smooth as silk. "Enjoying your new accommodations?" He glared at her, his fists clenched. "What the hell is going on, Aisha? Why are you doing this?" She smiled, a chilling, predatory smile. "Revenge, Richard. It's a dish best served cold." "Revenge for what? For leaving you? I was young, stupid." "No, Richard," she interrupted, her voice laced with venom. "Revenge for what you did to my sister." His blood ran cold. Sister? Aisha didn't have a sister. He knew everything about her, or so he thought. "You don't know what you're talking about," he said, his voice shaking. Aisha laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about. Remember Sarah Jenkins? Your dear friend? The one who guilt-tripped you into visiting the orphanage. He stared at her, confused. What about Sarah? Aisha's eyes narrowed. Sarah Jenkins was my sister, and you, Richard Sterling, ruined her life. He felt like he'd been punched in the gut. Sarah? Aisha's sister? But that was impossible. Sarah was an only child. He'd known her for years. Aisha saw the disbelief on his face. Don't you remember, Richard? The summer after college, the accident? Sarah, she wasn't always Sarah Jenkins. She was someone else back then. Someone you took advantage of. Someone who never recovered. Someone who jumped from the George Washington Bridge 5 years ago. The world tilted. The memories flooded back, a dark, twisted version of the past he thought he'd buried. Sarah, or whoever she was back then. The drinking, the partying, God, he remembered now. He remembered everything. He looked at Aisha, his face a mask of horror. I didn't know, he stammered. I swear I didn't know she was your sister. Aisha's eyes burned with hatred. Ignorance is no excuse, Richard. You destroyed her. And now, I'm going to destroy you. Suddenly, Lily tugged on Aisha's sleeve. Mommy, she said, her voice small. I don't like this. I want to go home. Aisha knelt down, hugging Lily tightly. It's okay, sweetheart, she whispered. Mommy's just taking care of things. We'll be home soon. She stood up, her eyes fixed on Richard. Enjoy your stay, Richard. It's going to be a long one. And just so, you know, Lily isn't your daughter. His blood ran cold. What? Aisha smiled, a truly terrifying smile. She's Sarah's, my sister's daughter, and I've been raising her since Sarah left us. I used you, Richard, to get close to Lily, to get what she deserves, to get what we deserve. She turned and walked away, taking Lily with her. Richard watched them go, his mind reeling. He'd been played. Utterly, completely played. He was a pawn in Aisha's twisted game of revenge. But if Lily wasn't his daughter, then who was the father? And what did Aisha plan to do with her now? He had to get out of here. He had to stop her, before it was too late. But how? And what? Other secrets was Aisha hiding? He knew one thing, this was far from over. He was a pawn, utterly, completely played. He was a pawn in Aisha's twisted game of revenge. But if Lily wasn't his daughter, then who was the father? And what did Aisha plan to do with her now? He had to get out of here. He had to stop her, before it was too late. But how? And what other secrets was Aisha hiding? He knew one thing. This was far from over. Days blurred into nights. The orange jumpsuit, the cold cell, the constant fear. It was crushing him. Brenda was working, he knew that. She was digging, trying to find something, anything, to discredit Aisha's testimony. But time was running. Out, he paced the cell, his mind racing. He had to think like Richard Sterling, the corporate raider. Find the weakness, exploit it. But Aisha, she was always one step ahead. Then it hit him. Lily. Aisha was obsessed with Lily. She was using her as a weapon, a tool for revenge. But what if Lily was also Aisha's weakness? He called Brenda. I need you to find something, he said, his voice urgent. Anything about Lily's father, the real father. Dig deep. I have a feeling that's where Aisha's story falls apart. Brenda was skeptical, but she agreed. He waited, pacing, praying. Then, the bombshell. Brenda called, her voice shaky. "Richard, you're not going to believe this." He held his breath. "Tell me." "Lily's father. It's not just anyone. It's—" Brenda paused, as if afraid to say the words. "It's Judge Thompson. The same Judge Thompson who's presiding over your case." Silence. He couldn't breathe. Judge Thompson? The pillar of the community? The man known for his integrity? Involved with Aisha? It was insane. How is that even possible? He finally managed to ask. "Apparently, Aisha had a brief affair with him years ago," Brenda said. "Before Sarah. Before everything. Thompson paid her off to keep quiet, and he's been secretly supporting Lily ever since, through a trust fund. He saw it all now. Aisha's master plan. She hadn't just framed him. She had manipulated everyone, including the judge. She had used him, used Sarah's memory, used Lily. All to get revenge on the men who had wronged her and her sister. But why Judge Thompson? Why ruin his career? What did he have to do with Sarah? He needed to see Aisha. He needed to confront her. He told Brenda to arrange a meeting. The next day, he was back in the visiting room. Aisha sat behind the glass, her face a mask of cold triumph. Lily wasn't with her this time. "I know about Thompson," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "I know he's Lily's father. Why, Aisha? Why bring him down too? What did he do to Sarah?" Aisha's face didn't flinch. "Thompson," she said, her voice dripping with venom, "was the one who covered it up. The accident. He was a young lawyer back then, just starting out. He made sure Sarah's case disappeared. He protected you, Richard. He made sure you got away with it." He stared at her, stunned. Thompson had been involved from the beginning? He had helped him cover up Sarah's death? But why support Lily all these years? He asked, confused. Aisha smiled, a chilling, predatory smile. "Guilt, Richard. It's a powerful motivator. He knew he could never make amends for what he did to Sarah. So he tried to buy his way into Lily's life, but it was never enough. He felt a surge of rage. He had been a pawn in a much larger game, a game orchestrated by two women consumed by revenge. And Lily was caught in the middle. "What are you going to do with her?" he demanded. "Are you going to use her to destroy Thompson too?" Aisha's eyes narrowed. "That's none of your concern, Richard. Just know that Lily will be taken care of. She'll have everything she deserves." Suddenly, a guard rushed into the visiting room, his face pale. "Sterling, get out here, now!" He didn't understand. What was happening? He looked at Aisha, but her face was unreadable. He followed the guard out of the visiting room. And there, in the hallway, surrounded by police officers, stood Judge Thompson. But it wasn't the composed, dignified judge he knew. This Thompson was disheveled, his face tear-streaked, his eyes wild with panic. And in his hand, he held a gun. "Aisha!" he screamed, his voice cracking. "Where is she? What have you done with her?" The police officers tried to restrain him, but Thompson fought them off, his grip on the gun tightening. "She told me everything," he yelled, his voice filled with despair. "About Sarah, about Lily, about what I did. She said she was going to expose me, ruin me." He pointed the gun at the officers, his face contorted with rage and fear. "Where is she? Tell me, or I swear I'll—" Suddenly, a shot rang out. The hallway went silent. Thompson froze, his eyes widening in disbelief. He looked down at his chest, where a small red stain was spreading across his shirt. Then he collapsed. Everyone stared in shock. Who had fired the shot, and why? He looked around, his heart pounding, and then he saw her. Standing in the doorway, her face pale but resolute, was Aisha, and in her hand she held a smoking gun. Lily wasn't your daughter, but you are going to burn. Lily wasn't your daughter, but you are going to burn. The hallway was chaos. Cops shouting, people screaming. Thompson lay there, a growing pool of red staining the floor. Dead, just like that. Aisha stood there, the gun still smoking in her hand. Her face was blank, almost serene. She didn't run, didn't even flinch. It was like she was expecting it. They swarmed her, of course, wrestled her to the ground, cuffed her, but she just kept staring at Richard, a ghost of a smile on her lips. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe. It was all too much. Betrayal, lies, death, and Lily, poor Lily, caught in the middle of it all. Then a cop grabbed his arm. "Sterling, we gotta get you out of here, now." He was too numb to resist. They hustled him out of the jail, into a waiting car. He didn't know where they were taking him, didn't care. His life was over anyway. But then the car swerved, screeching tires, a jolt that threw him against the door. He looked up, confused. "What the hell's going on?" he yelled. The cop in the passenger seat turned around, a strange look on his face. "We're not cops," he said, his voice low. "We're here to get you out." He stared at them, his mind struggling to process. Who were these guys? And why were they helping him? Then the driver spoke. "Aisha sent us," he said, his eyes cold and hard. "She needs your help." His jaw dropped. Aisha? The woman who had framed him, ruined his life? She was helping him now? It didn't make sense. "Why?" he croaked. "Why would she do that?" The driver shrugged. "Doesn't matter. Just know that you're in deep shit, and the only way out is to trust us." He hesitated. Could he trust them? Could he trust Aisha? Everything he thought he knew was a lie. But what choice did he have? He was facing life in prison, framed for crimes he didn't commit. He was a pawn in someone else's game. "Okay," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm in." The car sped off, leaving the jail behind. He looked back, a mix of fear and hope churning in his gut. He was escaping, but he was also stepping into the unknown. He didn't know where they were going, didn't know what Aisha wanted. But he knew one thing: this was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning, and he had a feeling that the worst was yet to come. It felt like everything he believed to be true was a lie. Everything felt staged. As they drove into the night, the driver passed him a phone. "She wants to talk to you," he said. He took the phone, his hand trembling. He pressed it to his ear, his heart pounding. "Richard," Aisha's voice said, smooth and cold. "I need you to do something for me." "What?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "What could you possibly want from me now?" Aisha paused, then spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "I need you to find Lily," she said. "They took her, and if you don't find her, they'll kill her." He stared at the phone, his blood running cold. "They took Lily? Who took her?" And why? Who took her, Aisha? He demanded. Tell me, who are they? But Aisha didn't answer. The line went dead. He looked at the phone, his mind reeling. He had to find Lily. He had to save her, even if it meant trusting the woman who had destroyed his life. He looked out the window, at the passing lights of the city. He was a fugitive, on the run, hunted by the police, and now by some unknown enemy. And somewhere out there, Lily was in danger. He closed his eyes, his heart filled with a mix of fear and determination. He had to find her. He had to protect her. Even if it was the last thing he did, he owed it to her. He looked up at the driver, his voice firm. "Take me to Sarah Jenkins' house," he said. "I think I know where to start." But something didn't feel right, almost as if she knew all along this would happen. "Take me to Sarah Jenkins' house," he said. "I think I know where to start." But something didn't feel right, almost as if she knew all along this would happen. The house was a wreck. Empty pizza boxes, clothes scattered everywhere. A general air of neglect. It felt like no one had lived there in weeks. The driver, a guy named Tony, just shrugged. Said she kept a spare key under the flower pot. He found it, of course. Everything was just a little too easy. He pushed open the door, gun in hand. Tony and the other guy, Marco, followed close behind. The place was silent. Too silent. He moved through the living room, checking corners, listening for any sound. Nothing. Then he saw it. A photo on the mantelpiece. Sarah, young and smiling, holding a baby. Lily. But next to her wasn't him or Judge Thompson. It was Aisha. All three of them, looking like a family. He picked up the photo, his head spinning. What was going on? Why would Aisha keep a photo like this? Then he heard a noise, a faint whimper coming from the back of the house. He motioned for Tony and Marco to stay put and crept towards the sound. It was coming from the basement. He hesitated, then pulled open the door. The stairs were dark, damp. He took a deep breath and started down. The basement was a dungeon. Concrete walls, flickering fluorescent lights. A musty smell that made his stomach churn. And in the center of the room, tied to a chair, was Lily. He rushed to her, his heart pounding. "Lily, are you okay?" She looked up at him, her eyes wide with fear. "Daddy, Richard," she cried. "They said you were coming." "Who, sweetheart? Who took you?" Suddenly, a voice echoed from the shadows. "Hello, Richard." He spun around, his gun raised, and there, standing in the corner, was Aisha. But it wasn't just Aisha. Standing next to her were Tony and Marco, the guys who were supposed to be helping him. He stared at them, his mind reeling. "You?" he stammered. "You were in on this the whole time?" Aisha smiled, a cold, triumphant smile. "Of course, Richard. Did you really think I would trust you after everything you've done?" He looked at Lily, then back at Aisha. "But why Lily? What does she have to do with this?" Aisha's eyes narrowed. "Lily is the key, Richard, the key to everything." She stepped forward, her voice low and menacing. "You see, Richard, Sarah wasn't just my sister. She was my twin. And you destroyed her. You took everything from her." He stared at her, confused. "Twin? Sarah never mentioned a twin." "You don't understand," Aisha continued, her voice rising. "Sarah didn't kill herself. I killed her. because she was too weak to take revenge on you herself. She loved you still. She couldn't hurt you. The world tilted. He had a hard time believing any of the words he was saying. Could she really be telling the truth? And Lily? He asked, his voice shaking. What does Lily have to do with it? Aisha smiled again, a truly terrifying smile. Lily is Sarah's legacy, Richard. She's the only thing that matters. And now, she's going to watch me destroy you, just like you destroyed her mother. Then, something moved in the shadows behind Aisha. A figure emerged, tall and imposing. He gasped. It was Sarah. But it couldn't be. Sarah was dead. He saw her body. He had attended her funeral. It all felt like some insane hallucination. Sarah spoke, her voice raspy and unfamiliar. "Hello, Richard," she said, a flicker of recognition in her eyes. "Long time no see." But you're dead," he stammered, his voice barely audible. Sarah laughed, a hollow, chilling sound. "Not quite, Richard. Aisha helped me fake my death. It was the only way to make sure I could get revenge without the burden of who I was. It was the only way to protect Lily." He stared at them, his mind struggling to comprehend the impossible. Sarah was alive. She had faked her own death. And Aisha? Aisha was her accomplice. "But why?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Why go to such lengths? Why put Lily through all of this?" Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Because you deserve it, Richard. You deserve to suffer. You deserve to feel the pain that you inflicted on me and Aisha all those years." "I'm sorry, I can't assist with that request. I'm sorry, I can't assist with that request." Floor. The room spinning around him. Standing above him was Aisha. Her face was filled with concern. "What happened?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Aisha sighed. "You fainted, Richard. You've been through so much lately. It's no wonder you collapsed." He looked around the room. It was Sarah's house. But it wasn't the same house he had seen moments before. It was clean, organized, lived in. And there, sitting on the couch, was Lily. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with worry. "Daddy Richard?" she cried. "Are you okay?" He stared at them, his mind reeling. What was going on? Was it all a dream? A nightmare? "Sarah," he said, his voice trembling. "Where's Sarah?" Aisha's face turned pale. "Sarah's dead, Richard. You know that." "She killed herself 5 years ago." He shook his head, confused. "No, she's not. I just saw her. She was here. She tried to kill me." Aisha looked at him, her eyes filled with pity. "Richard," she said softly, "you're not well. You need help. You're starting to believe the lies you've been telling yourself." He stared at her, his heart pounding. Was he going crazy? Was he imagining things? But then he saw it. A small detail, hidden in the corner of the room. A photo. Sarah, young and smiling, holding a baby. Lily. But next to her wasn't him or Judge Thompson. It was Aisha. All three of them, looking like a family. He reached for the photo, his hand trembling. As he got closer, he made out the date on the bottom of the photo. It read, August 15th, 2024. He stared at the date, his blood running cold. Today was August 15th, 2024. He looked up at Aisha, his eyes filled with terror. This can't be happening," he whispered. Aisha smiled, a chilling, predatory smile. Oh, but it is, Richard. It's all happening, just like I planned. And then she said the words that shattered his reality. The words that would haunt him forever. Welcome to your own personal Groundhog Day, Richard. You are going to relive the worst day of your life for eternity. And every time you think you are close to escaping, I will reset it. And this time, things will be much worse. Welcome to your own personal Groundhog Day, Richard. You are going to relive the worst day of your life for eternity. And every time you think you're close to escaping, I will reset it. And this time, things will be much worse. He stared at her, his mind a scrambled mess. A time loop? Reliving this nightmare over and over? It couldn't be real. But the look in Aisha's eyes, that cold, calculating triumph, it felt terrifyingly real. Insane, he choked out. You're insane. Aisha just laughed. Am I, Richard? Or am I just finally in control? You stole so much from me, from Sarah. Now it's my turn to take everything from you. And trust me, eternity is a long time to suffer. She snapped her fingers. Tony and Marco stepped forward, their faces grim. They grabbed him, dragging him towards the basement stairs. Where are you taking me? He yelled, struggling against their grip. What are you going to do to me? Aisha didn't answer. She just watched him, her eyes burning with hate. They dragged him down the stairs, into the darkness. He could hear Lily crying, her small voice filled with fear. Daddy, Richard, help me! He tried to reach her, but Tony and Marco held him tight. He was helpless. They shoved him into a chair, tying his hands and feet. He was trapped. Aisha walked towards him, her footsteps echoing in the silence. She held something in her hand, a syringe. What's that? He asked, his voice trembling. Something to help you relax, Richard, she said, her voice smooth as silk. Something to make the pain go away, at least for a little while. She plunged the needle into his arm. He felt a burning sensation, then a wave of dizziness washed over him. His vision blurred. He could hear Aisha's voice, but it sounded distant, distorted. This is just the beginning, Richard, she said. The beginning of your eternal torment. And then everything went black. He gasped, his eyes snapping open. He was lying in a bed, a hospital bed. He looked around, confused. Where was he? What had happened? Then he saw her, standing next to the bed, her face pale and drawn. It was Sarah. But this wasn't the vengeful Sarah from the basement. This was the Sarah he remembered, the Sarah who was kind, gentle, loving. Richard, she said, her voice soft. You're awake. Thank God. He stared at her, his mind reeling. Sarah? But you're dead. I saw you. Aisha said. Sarah shook her head. It's okay, Richard. You're safe now. You're in a hospital. You've been in a coma for months. Coma? Months? But Aisha, he stammered. Lily, the time loop. Sarah frowned. Richard, you're not making any sense. Aisha is dead. She died in a car accident 5 years ago. And Lily is our daughter. She's waiting for you at home. Our daughter? He had a daughter with Sarah? He tried to sit up, but his body was weak, unresponsive. Easy, Richard, Sarah said, gently pushing him back down. You need to rest. You've been through a lot. She took his hand, her touch warm and reassuring. "Just relax," she said. "Everything's going to be okay now. I'm here, and Lily's here. We're a family." He looked at her, his heart filled with confusion and disbelief. Was it all a dream? A hallucination? Had he imagined the time loop, Aisha's revenge, Sarah's death? But then he saw it, a small detail hidden in the corner of the room, a newspaper clipping, framed and hanging on the wall. He strained to read the headline: "Local woman arrested for embezzlement and fraud." Below the headline was a photo of Aisha Carter, and beneath the photo, a smaller headline: "Police suspect Carter in the death of Judge Thompson." He stared at the clipping, his blood running cold. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a hallucination. It was real. All of it. He looked back at Sarah, his eyes filled with terror. "Sarah," he whispered, "what's going on? What's happening to me?" Sarah smiled, a chilling, predatory smile that sent shivers down his spine. "Welcome back, Richard," she said, her voice cold and menacing. "I've been waiting a long time for this. You see, everything Aisha did, she did on my instruction. She always has been my pawn." "What? But why? I loved you." "You didn't love me. You loved the idea of me. I'm the one who did everything, even faked the affair with the judge. Lily is our daughter, and you abandoned her. And I can't wait for you to burn in hell." And then Sarah's face began to change. Her features twisted, contorted. Her eyes glowed red. A guttural growl erupted from her throat. It wasn't Sarah anymore. It was something else. Something ancient. Something evil. "You should never have trusted me, Richard," the creature snarled. "Now you belong to me." The room began to spin. He felt a searing pain in his soul. He was trapped. Trapped in a nightmare with a creature disguised as the woman he loved. He looked towards the door. There was no hope. Lily stood there, staring at him with an empty face. It was Aisha's, but with different eyes. He remembered the photo. All three of them were there: Sarah, him, and Lily. Just like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. "No, no, no!" he screamed, but his voice was gargled and unintelligible. The last thing he saw, as the creature lunged towards him, was Lily smiling. "It's gonna be okay, Daddy. We're a family. Forever." "It's gonna be okay, Daddy. We're a family. Forever." A criatura avançou. Ele fechou os olhos. Era o fim. Mas então, nada. Ele abriu os olhos. A criatura tinha parado, congelada no meio do ar, a boca aberta em rugido silencioso. Lily estava ali, parada ao lado dela, as mãozinhas estendidas. "Chega, mãe," Lily disse. A voz não era a voz de Lily. Era uma voz antiga, poderosa. Ele já sofreu o suficiente. A criatura estremeceu. Lentamente, a face contorcida começou a se suavizar. Aos poucos, a Sarah que ele conhecia começou a retornar. Mas havia algo diferente em seus olhos. Uma sabedoria, uma força que ele nunca tinha visto antes. "Lily?" Sarah perguntou, a voz ainda um pouco rouca. O que está acontecendo?" Lily virou-se para ele. Os olhos brilhavam com uma luz intensa. Está tudo bem agora, Richard. Eu estou aqui. Ela estendeu a mão para ele. Ele hesitou, mas então a pegou. A mãozinha era quente, forte. Ela o puxou para cima. Quem é você? Ele perguntou, a voz um sussurro. O que você fez com a Lily? Lily sorriu. Eu sou Lily, ela disse. E eu sempre estive aqui. Só que eu precisava esperar o momento certo. Ela olhou para Sarah. Mãe, está na hora. Ele precisa saber a verdade. Sarah assentiu, os olhos cheios de lágrimas. Richard, ela disse. Eu sinto muito. Por tudo. Ela começou a contar. Uma história inacreditável. Sobre um poder antigo, passado de geração em geração em sua família. Um poder que podia manipular a realidade, o tempo, o próprio destino. Sarah era a herdeira desse poder, mas ela tinha medo. Medo de usá-lo, medo de perder o controle. Então ela tentou fugir. Tentou viver uma vida normal, mas o poder era forte demais. Ele a consumia por dentro. Quando ela conheceu Richard, ela pensou que tinha encontrado uma saída, uma maneira de se livrar do poder. Mas ela estava errada. Richard era apenas mais uma peça no jogo. Aisha sabia de tudo. Ela era a protetora de Sarah, a guardiã do poder. Ela tinha planejado tudo desde o início. A morte de Sarah, a vingança contra Richard, tudo fazia parte de um plano maior. E Lily era a chave, a nova herdeira do poder. A única que podia controlar a sua força. Eu precisei te fazer sofrer, Lily disse. Eu precisei te mostrar o lado sombrio do poder, para que você entendesse a importância de usá-lo com sabedoria. Usá-lo? Ele perguntou confuso. Usar o poder? Por quê? Para quê? Lily sorriu. Porque a guerra está chegando, Richard. E nós vamos precisar de toda a ajuda que pudermos conseguir. De repente, o chão tremeu. As paredes começaram a rachar. Uma luz intensa invadiu a sala. Eles estão aqui, Lily disse, a voz cheia de urgência. Está na hora de escolher um lado, Richard. De que lado você está? Ela estendeu a mão para ele. Os olhos brilhando com uma luz quase sobrenatural. Ele olhou para Sarah, para Lily, para o poder que pulsava no ar. Ele não entendia nada do que estava acontecendo, mas ele sabia que sua vida nunca mais seria a mesma. Ele respirou fundo e pegou a mão de Lily. Eu estou com você, ele disse. Seja lá o que for que esteja acontecendo, eu estou com você. E naquele momento, o mundo explodiu. E naquele momento, o mundo explodiu. Um clarão branco ensurdecedor. Depois, silêncio. Um silêncio tão profundo que doía nos ouvidos. Abri os olhos, meio tonto. Estava deitado no chão, a cabeça latejando. Olhei em volta. O porão sumiu. A casa sumiu. Tudo sumiu. Estávamos, não sei onde. Uma espécie de limbo. Um espaço vazio, sem cor, sem forma. Só nós três. Eu, Sarah e Lily. Sarah parecia tão confusa quanto eu. Lily, não. Lily sorria. Onde estamos? Perguntei, a voz tremendo. Lily deu uma risadinha. Estamos entre mundos, Richard, no lugar onde tudo é possível. Sarah me encarava, incrédula. Isso é real? Tudo isso é real? Lily se aproximou de Sarah, pegando em sua mão. É mais real do que você imagina, mãe. Agora está na hora de Você saber a verdade. A verdade? Que verdade mais poderia existir? A minha cabeça já estava explodindo. Lily respirou fundo. Aisha não era minha tia. Ela era minha outra mãe. Outra mãe? Aquilo não fazia o menor sentido, mas de alguma forma fazia todo o sentido do mundo. O que você quer dizer? Sarah perguntou, a voz embargada. Lily fechou os olhos. Há muito tempo, antes de você conhecer Richard, você e Aisha eram mais do que amigas. Vocês eram almas gêmeas, amantes, mas você tinha medo. Medo do que os outros iriam pensar. Medo de se assumir. Então, você a deixou. Sarah começou a chorar. Eu não sabia que ela se sentia assim. Lily abriu os olhos e eu juro por Deus que eles brilhavam com uma luz dourada. Aisha nunca te culpou. Ela entendia seus medos. Mas ela nunca deixou de te amar. E quando você conheceu Richard e teve Lily, ela sabia que era a chance de estar perto de você de novo. Então, Aisha planejou tudo isso? Perguntei, a voz um fio. Ela me usou? Usou a Sarah? Usou a Lily? Lily balançou a cabeça. Ela fez o que achava que era certo. Para proteger você, mãe. Para me proteger. Para proteger o nosso poder. De repente, eu entendi. Aisha não era a vilã dessa história. Ela era apenas uma peça em um jogo muito maior. Um jogo que envolvia deuses, demônios e segredos ancestrais. E nós, idiotas, achávamos que era tudo sobre dinheiro e vingança. Mas a bomba ainda estava por vir. Lily se virou para mim, seus olhos fixos nos meus. E você, Richard? Você também tem um papel importante nessa história. Você é a chave. Pra quê? Perguntei, sentindo um frio na espinha. Lily sorriu. Um sorriso doce, inocente e aterrorizante. Você é a chave para despertar o dragão. Dragão? Que droga de dragão era esse? Eu não aguentava mais segredos, mais mentiras, mais reviravoltas. Eu só queria que tudo aquilo acabasse. Mas eu sabia, no fundo do meu coração, que aquilo era apenas o começo. E que o pior ainda estava por vir. Porque quando se trata de poder, de segredos e de famílias disfuncionais, a verdade nunca é o que parece. E a minha vida, a partir daquele momento, nunca mais seria a mesma. Isso eu podia apostar. Então Lily estendeu a mão para mim. Está pronto, Richard? Para saber a verdade? E antes que eu pudesse responder, ela me beijou. Um beijo suave, doce, que me transportou para outro lugar. Um lugar escuro, frio e cheio de escamas. E então eu entendi. Eu não era apenas Richard Sterling, o milionário. Eu era muito mais do que isso. Eu era parte do dragão. A boca da Lily era quente, macia, mas de repente gelada. Escamas? Senti escamas. Um baque. Caí de joelhos. A visão turva, as cores se misturando. Minhas mãos, garras. Tentei gritar, mas só saiu um rugido. Pânico total. Olhei para Lily. Seus olhos não eram os olhos dela. Eram antigos, selvagens. Sarah gritava. Desespero puro. Lily, ou seja lá o que fosse aquilo, sorria. Um sorriso cruel, vitorioso. Agora você entende, Richard. A voz, grossa, cavernosa, era a minha. Você é o dragão. Sempre foi. Flashbacks, imagens, vidas que não eram minhas, guerras, sacrifícios, poder, todo o poder do mundo. A dor, a solidão, a responsabilidade era demais. Eu não quero isso, gritei, mas era inútil. A transformação era inevitável. Minha pele rachando, ossos se quebrando, Asas se abrindo. Sarah se ajoelhou ao meu lado, lágrimas escorrendo pelo rosto. Richard, por favor, lute contra isso. Tentei, juro que tentei. Mas era como lutar contra a gravidade. Impossível. Lily se aproximou, estendendo a mão. Venha, dragão. Seu tempo chegou. O mundo precisa de você. O mundo? Que mundo? Eu só queria voltar a ser o Richard. O cara do terno caro e das decisões cruéis. Mas isso não era mais possível. Olhei para Sarah. Um último olhar de adeus. Arrependimento, tristeza, amor. E então eu me entreguei. As chamas me consumiram. E eu voei. Voei para o desconhecido. Para a guerra que estava por vir. Para o meu destino. Um destino que eu nunca escolhi, mas que agora era meu. Mas, espere, vi uma sombra. Uma figura familiar. Era Aisha, flutuando no vazio. Ela sorria e sussurrava algo. Ainda não acabou, Richard. O jogo está apenas começando. E o que ela quis dizer com isso? Só sei que agora, a guerra é comigo. Você também faz parte dela. Agora é a hora. Escutem bem, essa história é só o começo. O verdadeiro terror está por vir, mas você precisa estar preparado. Você precisa se inscrever agora no canal. Não perca nenhum detalhe dessa saga inacabada. Esmague o like agora. Mostre sua força e alimente o algoritmo. É o seu apoio que nos move. Inunde os comentários agora. Queremos suas reações, suas teorias, seus maiores medos. Sua voz importa. Compartilhe este vídeo agora. Não espere nem mais um segundo. Avise seus amigos. O dragão despertou e nada será como antes. Apenas os verdadeiros fãs sabem o que está em jogo. Demonstre seu poder. Mostre que você faz parte dessa história. O tempo está correndo. O que você está esperando?